Hello, crypto friends. So, pretty big day today. A lot of action going on. We're going to look at the big three. I'm going to focus on a bit of swing trading and longer term levels, weekly and daily levels to start before I zoom in, because swing traders are people too, and want to start incorporating that mindset into videos as well. Just because I don't have that mindset doesn't mean that information can't be useful. So, with the fork here happening, we do have BCH appearing in lots of accounts, but they're not really allowing withdrawal yet at this point. And I do believe that when exchanges like I don't even know how to say it, Bitfinex, when they begin starting their withdrawals, I do believe that there is going to be a massive amount of supply as people lock in their quote-unquote free money. And surprised the price is holding up at this point, but in my opinion, that is due to the lack of ability of people to sell. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. Congrats to anybody that did lock in those free coins, and let's see if there is some decent profit to be had there. So where we're starting here on Bitcoin, we have very clear the all-time resistance, and I've deleted all of my support and resistance lines from all of these charts so we can start with a nice, fresh, clean slate. Clearly, we have that all-time high as resistance. We have our important support level, the lowest price that we saw on the pullback. If that level were to break, that would be a clear bear break, and that's down at 1758. That would be a big red flag. If that level breaks, we could see multiple hundreds of dollars to the downside further. So we have our high, the low of the pullback, and now a lower high. So we're still within striking distance of the all-time high. Currently about 9% away from that level, but we do have upper wicks, so we have to be aware of that. The week obviously is half over, not even. We have plenty of time left in this week, but as of right now, this is a bearish candlestick with an upper wick. It's an inverted hammer, and the upper wick shows profit taking. So last time we saw a similar candlestick with an upper wick, and really the last two times we've seen similar candlesticks, we saw further downside in the following weeks. So if we were to end this week with this candlestick as this shape, we would be looking for further downside from here. So the next 4 or 5 days are going to be important for the bulls to try and recover as much as they can to eliminate that upper wick. So obviously the all-time high is the key resistance. Another support level, which we can find on the daily time frame, we'll find a couple more support levels in the longer term. It's the low of these consolidations. So there's the low that I just found on the weekly time frame. The higher low of support that the bulls really want to maintain is here at 2400, 2403. If that level were to break, there's not a ton of support down until 1758. So definitely want to see the bulls hold that level, and if you want to get even tighter with it, we can just walk on up to these higher lows. So the next higher low is 2500 on the dot. We hit that level just the other night, and then most recently now 2676. So depending on how tight you want to be with your stop loss level, whether you're a swing trader or shorter term, is depending on which level you use here. So personally, if I were trading long term, well, it's really hard to go personal because it all depends how much of your stack is in, how much of your total capital to your name are you trading with? Do you have a family to take care of? These are all really important questions that need to be answered. And those of us that are young and trading in this space and, don't have a family and don't have a mortgage and don't have loans, we can be a lot more risky with our plays, which is what I personally did when I first got into Ethereum back 3-4 months ago, where I went in very heavy with all of my free capital. I went in about 75% of all of that, knowing full on that if I lost it all, I would be all right. I'd be able to dig out of that hole and still be fine. Whereas if I had a family to take care of, I never would have done that, never even would have come close to putting that much of the capital in. So it all depends, when people ask for stop loss levels and where should I take my profit, there's so much more that goes into that question behind the scenes that I just have no idea what the real story is. So it's hard to answer that question. So the tightest support, 2676 on the daily time frame. In terms of resistance, we have two tops just under the all-time high, looking at 2957 and 2925, which was just hit. So watching to see if the bulls are going to be able to get over those levels. And essentially we're in a channel right now between 2676 and 2925, which is about $250. So that's about a 10% channel, a little bit less. And right now, let's zoom in a bit more, the 4-hour time frame, we can see the bulls have a solid uptrend going, but they have to break that 2957 level in order to see that continuation towards that all-time high. So we do have a clear higher low pattern on this 4-hour time frame. The most recent higher low was that 26.76 level, and the bulls want to get up and break 29.25 and 29.57 to be looking at that all-time high. This is still very healthy consolidation, and don't disregard this 4-hour MACD cross. This 4-hour MACD cross in the crypto space sector has been very, very beneficial for signals. Every time we have a bull cross, it leads to significant upside. I shouldn't say every time, but the vast majority of the time. And even here, we didn't stay bullish long. We crossed it bullish. But even in that short amount of time, that bull cross occurred right here. We saw 16 hours of upside where the cross was given. Worst case scenario was 27.49, and then we moved up to 2,900. So $150 signal by that bullish MACD cross. So we do have a bearish cross now, and the bulls will look to build a base of support and try and see this higher low pattern continue and try and get over that recent resistance at 29.25. So the bulls are still in control here on this 4-hour chart. It would require losing this higher low pattern in order to change that. Even though we have our clear little double top of resistance, a little lower high, it has to lose the higher low for the bears to take back over. So the bulls do still have control on Bitcoin. Ethereum, weekly time frame. Look at the range tighten. We're not seeing inside bars exactly because we are breaking the highs and the lows of the previous candlesticks, but we are seeing declining volume and tightening ranges. That's very clear. So we do have higher lows each week, and we do have a couple lower highs to be watching, and we're watching for the bulls to see a break. So in order to do that, the lowest price we've seen, as we know, is down at 130. So that's a very important support. If 130 is lost, we're going to be looking to head down to 100 would be the next level that I look at after 130. Just changed tickers by accident. Bear with me. ETH coin base is what I'm looking for. There we go. So higher low established here at that 130 level. That's a must hold. In terms of the high of the bounce after that recovery, we're looking at 249.40. So let's zoom into the daily time frame to get more details. And getting rid of some of these lines to make it nice and clear. But what we're looking at is a higher low, lower high pattern still in play, where we have our pullback, we're bouncing off of the low. We have the high of our recovery that happened just 2 days later. Now we have a higher low, a more important support. I shouldn't say more important. The next important support is 178. So there's our higher low. And we'll be watching to see if we form a lower high. Anything under 249.40 on this current bull move is going to be a lower high, and we're going to continue to see this tightening range. And I love patterns like this. This is great. I want this to get as tight as it possibly can. I want to see a lower high. I don't have an ETH position right now. Obviously, I'd want it to go up if I did. But I want to see another lower high. I want to see another higher low. I want the price range to get so tight that the level is going to become so clear that all traders, all tens of thousands of us, if not hundreds of thousands, are going to be watching for that break. And when it does break, we're going to see a volume spike. If it's a bull break or whatever direction it's going to be, we're going to see a volume spike and solid momentum in that direction. So I'm really liking the setup for the potential of that tightening pattern. And this could play out for another week plus. You know, we could see another green day and then pull back to a lower high and then another 3 days for a higher low and just watch that range tighten. So keep that in mind because these moves are going to shrink down if we stay in this pattern. From day to day, we're going to see smaller ranges where the range from the low to the high on the initial bounce, that was a $120 bounce. And now the move from our higher low to a lower high would be about a, let's see, 178. Let's say 230. That would be about a $52 bounce. So almost half of that. So the ranges are tightening, which means trading opportunity is tightening until we see a clear break. Zooming in on the 4-hour time frame to get some more details. Big bull move. Nice breakout by the bulls. And the signal of this bull move coming was the big bull volume. So when you see a big bull volume move and a break of the lower high pattern, you can then anticipate that a higher low is going to form on consolidation. Look at how low that bear volume is on consolidation. Ideal for the bulls. And then the big volume spike, seeing that bullish break follow through. So in the video I did yesterday, last night I said the break of 210 is going to see a solid move to the upside because that is the clear resistance to be watching. And let's actually look at it on the hourly time frame where it was a bit more clear why that resistance was so key. And we had rejected from it many times. And I also drew this uptrend support line. It was a bit of a ascending triangle pattern at that point. So there was our uptrend of support, and we were just watching. I believe I made the video when we were about right here, and we were just watching for a break of 210. And I picked a target of, I picked 2 resistance levels. I said first resistance after 2010 or I should say 210, is 218.71, and the next resistance level after that is going to be up at 225 is what I said, and that was because I was looking at this little green candlestick, the last little bounce attempt by the bulls, 224.71, last little bounce attempt before we collapsed. So that is a resistance level I was watching and said that we could be looking up for a move to that level. Where did we top out on this bounce? Ended up getting all the way up to 232.73, but the first bull move in the reaction of breaking 210, we saw 3 hours of upside and we hit 224.58, almost a perfect rejection from that resistance by 13 cents. So previous resistance levels certainly coming into play. Bulls pulled back. Previous resistance of 210 acting as support. We bounced at 210.63. So the bulls recognizing that support and getting in. And that's the other thing. The more people that use technical analysis, the more we have to anticipate that. So if we have, 10,000 traders looking at 210 previous resistance, now support, people are going to be putting their bids in at 210.10, 210.20, 210.40, and here we only drop down to 210.63. So if everybody's watching the same support level, you have to skip ahead in line a bit to be able to get filled. And fortunate bulls that were filled in between 210 and 211 then saw a $20 move to the upside as we saw continuation. So here on the daily or the hourly time frame, we now have our equilibrium pattern. The high of the bull move at 232.73, the low of consolidation at 220.51, our lower high now at 228.80, and we'll see if the bulls are going to form a higher low. It looks like we might have, just did at 223, but the range is clearly tightening here, and we'll be watching for a break of this tightening range sometime in the next 6 to 8 hours, I would say. So Ethereum bulls are in control of the short term, but that daily chart, I would be surprised. It would be very bullish if the bulls could get over 249.40 on this attempt. I don't think they'll be able to, so keep that in mind. I do think that that might be our top, 232.73. And obviously I wouldn't be making a bearish bet or anything like that. I would just be watching to see how this tightening pattern breaks, and if it's a bear break, that would make me that much more confident that this is now our lower high on the daily time frame, and we're going to continue to see this tightening pattern continue to play out. So Litecoin is trying to make a bull move as well, but let's start on the weekly time frame. This is a beautiful weekly chart. This is the strongest weekly chart out of the three, although Bitcoin's right near its all-time high, closer percentage-wise. In terms of the clear higher lows and higher highs, the bulls are still maintaining full control on this time frame. So we do still have a lot of back and forth action, green, red, green, red, green, but we have a double low of support here, 38.28 and then 38.40. So a little higher low there. That's where a key support is in the short term. If I were giving more wiggle room, I've got 34.78 and 33.38. So those are two support levels to be looking at. If we break those levels, that's a big red flag, as that's going to mean we're likely headed back down into the $20 range. So the bulls really want to hold these levels. Look at the weekly time frame. Lower highs every week now for over a month. So 57.75, 49.84, 47.93, 45.49, and bulls need to break that lower high pattern, obviously. So on the daily time frame, a bit more clear, we had the potential for this bearish reversal head and shoulders pattern, which fortunately for the bulls has not played out yet at this point. If we broke here and did not bounce off this $38 support, that would have been a clear bear break and a clear bear signal, changing the trend on the daily time frame. The bulls showed up just in time, bouncing off this $38 support just above it, and now we're trying to negate this pattern, and I would call this pattern negated if we see a break of the high of the right shoulder of 47.93. Now, that being said, even if the pattern gets drawn out and doesn't look like a happy guy with some big shoulders at this point, then we're going to be watching for the potential for this support line is always going to be relevant. So we could come back to the support line in 3 weeks, and it will no longer look anything like the Swamp Thing creature here. And if we break this support, that will still be a very clear bear break. So it doesn't matter if it no longer fits the classic head and shoulders pattern. This support has established itself now as a very important support level to be watching on Litecoin, $38. So in terms of where we are on the daily time frame, bullish MACD cross is about to follow through. That's a good sign, obviously. That being said, we have to look at previous history. What has happened in the past when we see bullish MACD crosses? Well, we've seen two very significant breakouts on the daily time frame, but the last bullish MACD cross that did follow through, sure, there was some decent upside, but we didn't get the follow through. That bullish MACD cross occurred pretty much right at the top of the move here. So we have to be a little bit weary of that and note, okay, This isn't a go signal every single time. We've seen 2 very successful crosses in the past couple of months, but the most recent cross was not successful and did not see follow through. So at this point, the bulls really want to see this follow through. We have 2 tops the last 2 days. This daily candlestick just switched over 2.5 hours ago. So we're looking at 43.80 and 43.84. That's a key resistance in the short term. If we break those levels, we're going to be heading back up to this high of the right shoulder. And let's get rid of this guy. So the high of the right shoulder, I do not anticipate, unless we see some kind of news catalyst, I do not anticipate that the bulls are going to be able to break above this resistance level on this shot, on this attempt, because where we currently stand, let's say we're in the 43s and we're trying to get up to the 47s, that's a 10% move. So I don't anticipate that the bulls are just going to be able to see a 10% move from here, but the bulls ideally are going to be looking to form higher lows and higher highs. So let's say we see a bull move, or I should say a lower high and a higher low, tightening range, like we're so familiar with. So let's say we see this bull move continue, and we do see in the next couple of days a break of 43.80 and 43.84. We'll look for the bulls to see continuation, and I would anticipate, unless we see some very solid breakout kind of volume, I would anticipate that we see a lower high compared to 47.93, and then we'll pull back and form a higher low and watch this range continue to tighten. The bull volume is favoring the bulls. You can see the consolidation volume on the daily time frame where we had 6 red days in a row was fairly decent volume, but compared to these bull moves, the bull volume is more, which is a good sign for the bulls, obviously. So it's still declining volume. You can see because of the range that was so significant and the range is tightening up now, that volume is tightening up as well. And this blue line here is the average volume, and that's dropping off. So we are seeing a tightening range with our essentially the low of, let's go from the all-time high. We have the high, the low, the pullback, lower high, higher low, so anticipating another lower high. So both Litecoin and Ethereum, which oftentimes trade inverse to Bitcoin, not always, the correlation is always changing, but there are times where it trades inverse. I'm looking at both Litecoin and Ethereum forming what I believe is a tightening pattern on the daily time frame, our equilibrium pattern, and both of them, ideally, I would love to see them break at different times because that will give us multiple trading opportunities on clear daily breaks. But these are swing trade signals. If we get Ethereum to set this lower high on the daily time frame and continue to see this range tighten, once it does break, that is a swing trade signal with some big time profit potential. And we'll be looking for Litecoin to do the same thing. So that's all I've got. I'm done talking. I will see you all in the short term future. And I guess we'll go in. I'm not done. Let's look at the shorter term time frames for Litecoin at this point. There are my indicators. So on Litecoin, there we go. 4-hour time frame. Nice bull move, higher lows and higher highs. Look at these upper wicks. There's all kinds of profit taking occurring from the upper $43 range. 43.80, 43.65, 43.70, 43.84. Profit taking on every single candlestick, but the bulls are still forming some higher lows. The bulls are trying to buy this dip right here, right now, with this lower wick, and they have to see higher lows continue, and then a bull break here, where we can essentially be looking at this double top of 43.80, 43.84, and if we get a break of those levels, the next resistance I'm looking at is 44.99. So essentially over $1 of upside potential if we do get a bull break, which at this point, the bulls are still maintaining their control. Zooming in on the hourly time frame for a bit more detail and clear resistance there, and watching for the potential of an ascending triangle pattern. Although we did just break this uptrend support line, we didn't break the higher low pattern, so we could adjust that line to make sure that the most recent pullback fits in there, and that does still looks like a pretty good line because the lower wicks are hitting it. Normally I use the real bodies of the candlestick, so I would want to tighten that up there, but factoring in the most recent action, setting the line right there would have multiple touches to make it valid. So it's an ascending triangle pattern, and watching to see if the bulls can get a bull break. And this is going to break. This pattern is going to break either the horizontal resistance line or the higher low pattern is likely to break overnight sometime in the next 8 hours or so. So now I'm done talking. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate all the likes and the shares and the comments. I enjoy interacting with everybody. And still plugging away at that course. Still have a timeline set at the end of August. And I will see you soon.